The morning sun bathed the presidential suite of the renowned The Ritz-Carlton in New York. William Thompson, the successful businessman behind Thompson Enterprises, opened his eyes, smiling at the image of the woman asleep beside him. She was Emily Carter, a brilliant corporate lawyer and his future wife. Sliding gently out of bed, William walked to the spacious balcony, admiring the breathtaking view of the city he had conquered through hard work and determination. At 42, he had reached the pinnacle of the corporate world, building an empire that surpassed all his initial ambitions. As he gazed at the horizon, William reflected on the long journey that had brought him here. His humble beginnings in a small town in the countryside, the struggle to stand out, and the countless battles fought to solidify his position. All the sacrifices had been worth it. His phone vibrated, interrupting his thoughts. It was Michael, his best friend and right-hand man at the company. "Everything's ready for the big day, boss. The venue is flawless," the message read. William smiled, feeling a wave of pride as he thought about the wedding that would take place in just a few hours. Everything would be perfect, a celebration worthy of a man of his stature. His heart filled with gratitude as he remembered someone who had stood by him during the toughest times, Isabella Johnson, his former personal assistant. Years ago, when his company was just a promise, Isabella had been the cornerstone that helped him build his empire. Tireless and loyal, she had worked day and night to ensure every detail was taken care of. One day, however, she simply disappeared without any explanation. Making an impulsive decision, William sent an invitation to the wedding to Isabella. It was an opportunity for reconciliation, a symbolic gesture to close an important chapter of his life. Back in the room, William saw Emily wake up, smiling at him. Her beauty was stunning, as was her sharp mind in the courtroom. She was the perfect companion he had always dreamed of having by his side. "Good morning, my love," Emily greeted him with a soft kiss. "Ready for the big day?" William wrapped her in his arms, feeling a wave of contentment. "More than ready. This will be the celebration of the year, and you will look dazzling." Together, they began to prepare for the ceremony that would change their lives forever. The event hall at the Plaza Hotel was a true masterpiece. Decorated with sophisticated elegance, every detail reflected the good taste and power of the couple about to unite. Distinguished guests from business magnates to celebrities arrived one by one, eager to witness the event of the year. William, impeccably dressed in a custom-made Italian suit, waited anxiously at the makeshift altar. His mind wandered, recalling the moments that had led him there. The corporate battles fought, the victories achieved, and the challenges overcome. On the other side of the hall, Emily made her triumphant entrance. Her wedding dress was a masterpiece of design, enhancing her natural beauty and confident posture. She walked down the red carpet as if she were a true queen, smiling at the guests who watched her with admiration. As the ceremony progressed, William could barely contain his emotions. This was the day that would crown his journey of success, sealing his union with the woman he deeply loved. Suddenly, the doors of the hall opened, and a familiar figure entered, accompanied by 3 identical children. William's heart raced as he recognized Isabella Johnson, his former personal assistant. By her side walked 3 boys, each about 7 years old, displaying unmistakable features that resembled William. The shock was immediate, as if time had frozen. William was speechless, unable to process what was happening before his eyes. The ceremony came to an abrupt halt, with Emily looking at him, demanding an explanation. Isabella, visibly nervous, took a step forward. "William, I know this is a surprise, but I need you to hear me out," she said, her voice trembling. In front of the stunned audience, Isabella revealed a shocking truth. The 3 boys were William's sons. She explained that she had become pregnant years ago, during the time she worked for him, and had tried countless times to contact him but never received a response. "I had no choice but to raise them alone," Isabella continued, tears streaming down her face. "I thought you were too busy with your dreams and ambitions to care." William was stunned, unable to process Isabella's words. How could this have happened without him knowing? He looked at Emily, whose eyes were wide, shocked and furious. Before William could say anything, Emily turned and ran out of the hall, leaving a trail of tears on her wedding dress. The guests began to murmur, some rushing out, while others remained frozen in shock. William approached Isabella and the boys, his mind spinning. He looked at the children, noticing the undeniable resemblance to himself. Tears welled up in his eyes as he realized the magnitude of what he had lost. "How was this possible?" he whispered, his voice hoarse with emotion. "How did I never know?" Isabella shook her head, holding the boys protectively. "I don't know, William. I tried to tell you, I swear, but I never got a response." At that moment, William realized that his perfect life wasn't as perfect as it seemed. Something dark lurked in the shadows of his past, waiting to be revealed, and he was determined to uncover the truth, no matter the cost. The following weeks proved turbulent for the businessman. The arrival of his mother and the revelations about the intercepted letters further shook his confidence in the people around him. He felt isolated, unable to fully trust anyone. During a tense meeting with his mother, he demanded explanations about her involvement in hiding the letters from the former employee. She admitted that, driven by the desire to protect him, she believed the pregnancy was a trap to ruin his promising career. "I only wanted the best for you, son." That woman disappeared without explanation, and when she reappeared pregnant, I thought she was plotting something. His mother justified, her eyes welling up. The businessman was stunned. "How could you make that decision for me? All these years I could have known my children." The argument grew heated, with accusations from both sides. His mother argued that she was only trying to protect her son's future, while he accused her of selfishness and disrespect for his ability to make decisions. In the midst of the fight, the former employee unexpectedly appeared. She had been called by a concerned employee who heard the shouting coming from the meeting room. Witnessing the scene, she stepped between the two, urging calm. "Fighting won't get us anywhere. We need to find a way to move forward together," she said, looking firmly at the businessman. Her presence calmed the tension, and the mother eventually left, still resentful. The businessman then turned to the woman with a look of gratitude. "Thank you for stepping in. I don't know what I would do without you right now," he confessed, visibly shaken. In the following days, the former employee became a pillar of support for the businessman. She advised him not to make hasty decisions regarding his mother, reminding him that, despite her mistakes, she was still family. Meanwhile, the presence of the triplets in the businessman's life became increasingly constant. Initially, the children were shy and cautious, but they gradually began to open up. The businessman made a conscious effort to create special moments with them, taking them out for walks, playing, and learning about their interests. One day, during a visit to the office, the boys found a locked drawer while playing. Curious, they asked their father to open it. Inside, there was a stack of papers that at first glance seemed to be just old documents. However, upon closer inspection, the businessman realized they were the letters the former employee had sent years ago, informing him of her pregnancy and asking to meet. He was shocked to see the dates and details contained in those yellowed pages. At that moment, a wave of emotions washed over him. Anger at having been deprived of that information, sadness at having lost so many precious years, but also hope that now, finally, things could be resolved. Determined to uncover the truth, the businessman called a meeting with all his closest and longest-serving employees. One by one, he confronted them with the letters, demanding to know who had intercepted them and why. At first, everyone denied any knowledge of the matter. However, after hours of intense questioning, a former assistant finally confessed. He admitted to hiding the letters at the request of the businessman's mother, who feared that the pregnancy could disrupt the company's expansion plans. The businessman was devastated, but not entirely surprised. His mother had always been a controlling presence in his life, placing her ambitions above all else. This revelation only confirmed his suspicions that she had gone too far in her obsession to protect him. In the days following the discovery of the intercepted letters, the businessman found himself caught in a true emotional storm. On one hand, he felt intense anger at having been deprived of precious years with his children. On the other, there was a deep sadness in recognizing that the people closest to him had betrayed his trust so profoundly. Amid this whirlwind of emotions, he sought comfort in the company of the former employee and the triplets. They became his anchor in a sea of uncertainty and disappointment. During a sunny afternoon while playing in the park, the boys surprised the businessman with an unexpected gesture. They handed him a drawing they had made themselves, depicting the four of them together, holding hands and smiling. "It's so Daddy never forgets that we're here," one of them said with a shy smile. That simple gesture of childish affection melted the businessman's heart. For the first time in weeks, he felt a wave of genuine joy. He hugged the boys tightly, holding the drawing as if it were a precious treasure. The former employee watched the scene with a mix of emotion and relief. She knew how much that moment meant to the businessman, who had been deprived of so many experiences as a father. In the following days, they began to rebuild their relationship, creating new memories and strengthening their bond. The businessman dedicated himself to being present, making up for lost time. However, the peace was once again shaken when the fiancée who had been absent reappeared demanding explanations. Furious about the scandal involving the triplets, she threatened to sue him for emotional distress and breach of promise. The businessman tried to explain the situation, pleading for understanding, but the fiancée refused to listen. She was determined to come out as the victim and secure a substantial financial settlement. At that moment, the former employee intervened, firmly standing by the businessman's side. She confronted the fiancée, accusing her of being driven solely by financial interests and showing no compassion for the delicate situation. "You should have a little empathy. This man just found out he has 3 children he was deprived of for years. Instead of supporting him, all you think about is money," the woman shot, looking directly into the fiancé's eyes. The fiancée, however, remained unmoved, claiming that her heart had been broken and that she deserved to be compensated. She hired an aggressive lawyer, determined to take the case to court if necessary. The businessman found himself in a difficult position once again, having to deal with the consequences of his past actions while trying to build a future with his new family. Amidst this legal battle, he found comfort in the company of the triplets and the former employee. They became his fortress, reminding him of what truly mattered: love and family connection. During a quiet night, as he watched the boys sleeping peacefully, the businessman reflected on how drastically his life had changed in such a short time. He had gone from being a successful but lonely man to a father surrounded by love and challenges. At that moment, he made a decision. No matter what lay ahead, he would fight to protect his new family and do things the right way this time. He was determined not to repeat the mistakes of the past and to create a future full of happy moments with those who truly mattered. With this renewed determination, he prepared to face the next chapters of his life, confident that no matter how turbulent the waters, they would navigate them together as a united and strong family. The atmosphere in the businessman's office was tense. The revelation of the triplets' existence and the allegations of misconduct had shaken his reputation. He tried to remain calm, but it was difficult to handle the pressure from shareholders and the press. A young reporter managed to secure an exclusive interview with him. As he entered the room, the young man couldn't hide his excitement. It was a huge opportunity for his career. "Mr. Thompson, thank you for having me. I'm sure many of our viewers are eager to hear your side of the story." The businessman took a deep breath and adjusted his tie. He knew his words would be crucial at that moment. "I appreciate the opportunity to clarify a few points. What happened was completely unexpected for me. For years, I was kept in the dark about the existence of my children. The letters sent by Julia never reached me." The reporter furrowed his brow, surprised by the revelation. "So someone intercepted them?" "Exactly. We discovered that a former employee, following instructions from my own mother, diverted all the correspondence. I never knew about Julia's pregnancy, and because of that I lost valuable years with the children." The young reporter could hardly contain his excitement at such a dramatic story. "And how did Mrs. Thompson react when she found out about her grandchildren?" The businessman hesitated, recalling the tense conversation with his mother. She admitted that she had known about their existence for some time. She said she believed Julia was trying to manipulate me, and that's why she chose to hide the letters. The reporter shook his head, incredulous. What a complicated situation. And how is Mrs. Julia handling all of this? She's shaken, of course. She spent years raising the boys alone, believing I had abandoned her. But Julia is being incredible, putting their well-being first. The interview continued, and the businessman made sure to emphasize his desire to rebuild ties with his children and create a united family. Those warm words contrasted with the recent accusations in the media. In the following days, the media coverage was divided. Some outlets questioned the businessman's integrity, while others portrayed him as a victim of tragic circumstances. The truth, as always, lay somewhere in between. While dealing with the media storm, the businessman received unconditional support from Julia. She had become his greatest ally in that battle. "Don't worry, we'll get through this together. The important thing is that you are present in their lives now," she said, referring to the triplets. He smiled, grateful to have her by his side. Together, they decided to schedule a meeting with the children so they could get to know him better. On the appointed day, the three boys entered the meeting room, looking around with curiosity. The businessman knelt down to be at their eye level. "Hi, boys, I'm your father." The three exchanged confused glances, but there was a glimmer of hope in their little eyes. "Are you going to live with us?" one of them asked expectantly. The businessman smiled, moved. "I would love to be a part of your lives. I promise I'll do my best to make up for lost time." The boys slowly approached, studying every feature of his face. Then, without warning, they hugged him tightly, as if they had been waiting for that moment for a long time. Julia watched the scene with tears in her eyes. Her heart was filled with hope, but also with worry. Their journey was just beginning. In the following days, the businessman dedicated himself to getting to know the triplets better. Despite his packed schedule, he made sure to set aside time to be with them. Sometimes he would take them to the office, where they spent hours playing and exploring every corner. During one of these visits, as the children ran down the hallway, one of them tripped and fell. The businessman rushed to help, but the little boy was already on his feet, smiling. "It's okay, Dad. I'm strong." Those simple words warmed the businessman's heart. He knelt down and hugged his son tightly, trying to hold back tears. "You are my little warriors," he whispered. That afternoon, while the children played in the meeting room, one of them found a locked drawer. Curious, he used a paperclip to open it. "Look here, Dad, there are some old letters." The businessman approached and examined the documents. His heart raced when he recognized Julia's handwriting. They were the letters that had been intercepted years ago. He flipped through the yellowed pages, reading emotional excerpts about Julia's pregnancy and her desire for him to meet their children. Tears streamed down his face as he imagined the pain she had endured alone. That night, he invited Julia to dinner. When they met, there was a renewed sense of closeness between them. "Thank you for coming," he said, smiling. Julia returned the smile. "Whenever you need me, I'll be here." He took a deep breath and slid the envelope with the letters across the table. "Look at what the boys found today." Julia paled as she recognized her own handwriting. Her hands trembled as she read the words she had written years ago. I can't believe they still existed," she said, her voice choked. The businessman held her hand tenderly. "Now, we have proof that someone really intercepted them. It wasn't your fault." Julia nodded, her eyes brimming with tears. "So much pain could have been avoided if they had reached out to you." He squeezed her hand tighter. "There's no use dwelling on the past. What matters is that we're together now, rebuilding our family." Julia smiled, moved by his determination. In that moment, she felt that perhaps there was a chance to reconnect with the man she once loved. As they dined, the businessman realized there were still many unanswered questions. Who had intercepted the letters, and why? He needed to uncover the truth, not just to bring justice, but also to rid themselves of the ghosts of the past that still loomed over them. In the following days, the businessman began to investigate discreetly. He spoke with former employees, reviewed records, and tried to piece together the puzzle. During one of these investigations, he stumbled upon a shocking revelation. His best friend Robert had been responsible for hiding some of Julia's letters. Consumed by anger and betrayal, the businessman arranged a meeting with Robert. When they met, the tension was palpable. "How could you do this to me?" shouted the businessman. "You were my friend." Robert raised his hands in a defensive gesture. "I was only trying to protect you." "Protect me? You deprived me of knowing my children." Robert sighed, realizing there were no excuses. "At the time, I thought Julia was just trying to take advantage of you. I thought it would be a dangerous distraction for your business. I hid some letters, but I swear I didn't know she was pregnant." The businessman shook his head in disbelief. "You had no right. You destroyed my chance to be a present father." Robert lowered his gaze, ashamed. "I know, and I deeply regret it. I let my judgments interfere with your personal life in a terrible way." The businessman stepped back, unable to look at his friend's face. The betrayal was hard to accept, but deep down, he knew that Robert had acted with good intentions, even if misguided. That night, he reflected on all the recent revelations. He realized that many people in his life had made impactful decisions on his behalf without consulting him. His mother, Robert, and even Julia, by disappearing without explanation. He felt like a puppet, his life being manipulated by those who claimed to love him. It was time to take control of his destiny and fight for the family he so deeply longed for. With renewed determination, the businessman decided to confront his mother again. She needed to know how much her actions had harmed not only him, but also the grandchildren she claimed to want to protect. The conversation was tense, with accusations and tears from both sides. His mother tried to justify her actions, saying she only wanted the best for him. "You were so focused on your career, son. I didn't want Julia to get in the way of your dreams." The businessman shook his head in disbelief. "My dreams included having a family, and you deprived me of that for years." His mother shrank back, realizing the gravity of her mistakes. "I'm so sorry. I just wanted to protect you, but I ended up hurting you." He sighed, exhausted from the lies and secrets. "I need some time to process all of this. I need to focus on my children now." With that, he walked away, leaving his mother crying alone. It was a difficult step, but a necessary one to start rebuilding his life. In the following days, the businessman devoted himself entirely to the triplets. He took them out for walks, bought them gifts, and tried to make up for lost time. During one of these moments, while they were playing in the park, one of the boys handed him a drawing. In it, the four of them were depicted together, holding hands and smiling. The businessman held the drawing tenderly, feeling his heart warm. That simple image represented everything he desired most: a united family. He hugged the three boys tightly, vowing to himself that he would never leave them again. They were his second chance, his opportunity to start over. And so, despite the pains of the past, the businessman moved forward, determined to build a future filled with love and happy moments, alongside his children and Julia, the woman who had given him the greatest gift of all. The atmosphere was tense in the businessman's company meeting room. The negative headlines continued to circulate, questioning his personal and professional conduct. Some investors were threatening to withdraw their capital, fearing that the scandal would affect the business. The businessman tried to remain calm, but he was visibly shaken. His press advisor presented a communication plan to control the damage, but he had doubts about its effectiveness. At that moment, his phone rang. It was his former employee, asking to speak with him urgently. He excused himself from the team and took the call in the hallway. "I need you to come to my house right now," she said, her voice trembling. Concerned, he didn't hesitate to comply. When he arrived, he found the woman visibly distressed, holding a yellowed envelope. "You need to see this," she said, handing him the envelope. Inside was a stack of old letters, all addressed to him. They were the same ones she had sent years ago, telling him about the pregnancy and begging for a response. This time, however, the letters were intact, with the details of his old business address. "I found them today while going through some old boxes," she explained, holding back tears. "Every time I try to tell you about the boys, these letters were there, proving my attempts." The businessman flipped through the letters, recognizing the familiar handwriting. He remembered how he had believed she had simply disappeared without explanation. Now the truth hit him like a punch to the gut. "I should have insisted more, looked for you," he lamented, feeling guilty. The woman reassured him, saying they were both victims of an elaborate scheme to keep them apart. She hugged him, offering comfort and understanding. At that moment, the triplets burst into the room, running excitedly. They had just returned from school, and upon seeing their father, threw themselves into his arms, laughing and telling him about their day. The businessman held them tightly, overwhelmed with emotion at finally having them in his life. Watching the scene, the former employee smiled, happy to see them connecting. Later, after putting the children to bed, the two talked about their next steps. They decided to confront the businessman's mother, demanding answers about her involvement in intercepting the letters. The next day, they went to her house, determined to get the truth. The woman received them coldly, denying any part in the scheme. "I just wanted to protect my son from a trap," she justified, casting an accusatory glance at the former employee. The businessman didn't accept that explanation. He showed the original letters, questioning how she could have known the woman's intentions without having seen the messages. Cornered, the mother admitted that a former employee had handed her the letters years ago. She believed the woman was trying to deceive her son for money, so she ordered the letters to be hidden. "I only wanted the best for you," she said, trying to justify herself. Furious, the businessman confronted her about her lack of trust in him and her inability to respect his choices. He demanded that she reveal the name of the employee involved, threatening to take legal action. Reluctantly, the mother provided the man's name and contact information. The businessman promised he would deal with him, but made it clear that his relationship with his mother was seriously damaged. As they left the house, the former employee comforted the businessman, saying that now they had answers and could move forward. Together, they planned how to approach the former employee and seek justice. In the following days, the businessman and the former employee focused on gathering evidence against the former employee involved in intercepting the letters. They obtained call logs and emails that proved his contact with the businessman's mother during the critical period. Armed with this evidence, they decided to confront him in person. The meeting was set at a discreet cafe where the man showed up, seemingly suspicious. As soon as they sat down, the businessman didn't waste time with small talk. He placed the intact letters on the table, along with the communication records. "You deceived me for years hiding these letters at my mother's request," he accused, his voice filled with disappointment. The man initially denied everything, but as the evidence was presented, his demeanor changed. He admitted to intercepting the letters, justifying that he was only following orders to protect the businessman's interests. "Your mother believed that woman was only after money," he explained, pointing to the former employee. "I thought I was doing the right thing by keeping you apart," the man said. The woman retorted, indignant that her intentions had been so misunderstood. She reminded him of how loyal and dedicated she had been during the years she worked for the company. The businessman intervened, saying that justifications no longer mattered. The damage had already been done, and he had lost precious years away from his children because of their actions. Seeing no way to defend himself, the man begged for mercy, fearing legal action. The businessman pondered for a moment, then made a proposal. He would not take legal measures as long as the man signed a detailed confession about his involvement in the scheme. Relieved, the former employee quickly agreed. In the following days, he drafted a thorough document, admitting his actions and offering sincere apologies. With this confession in hand, the businessman and the former employee felt more empowered. They decided to share the truth with the rest of the family and close friends, to clarify the facts and restore their reputations. In an intimate gathering, they presented the original letters and the former employee's confession. The woman's longtime friend, who had hidden some letters years ago, was moved by the evidence and asked for forgiveness for his unintentional participation in the scheme. The situation also became clearer for the triplets, who now better understood the circumstances that had kept them separated from their father for so long. Despite their youth, they showed maturity by expressing their desire to build a strong relationship with him. After clarifying the facts with their loved ones, the businessman felt ready to face the media and tell his side of the story. He granted an exclusive interview to a respected TV host, detailing the recent revelations and taking his share of responsibility for past mistakes. Your honesty and humility in admitting your failures moved the audience. Gradually, public opinion began to shift, with many viewers expressing sympathy for your situation. As the dust settled, the businessman and the former employee focused on strengthening their bonds with the triplets. They organized a trip to a beach resort, taking the opportunity to create unforgettable memories as a family. During this trip, the two adults had the chance to talk openly about the future. They admitted that, despite all the difficulties, they still harbored feelings for each other. The businessman expressed his desire to rebuild a solid relationship based on love and mutual respect. The woman agreed, saying that despite past disappointments, she had always known he was a man with a good heart. Together, they made a commitment to leave grievances behind and focus on building a fulfilling life alongside their children. Upon returning to the city, a new chapter began for all of them. The businessman dedicated himself to spending more time with the triplets, making up for the lost years. He also rehired the former employee at his company, this time in a prominent position, recognizing her value and loyalty. Although the road ahead was not without challenges, they were determined to face them together, as a family united and strengthened by the trials of the past. The following days were a whirlwind of emotions for the businessman. While trying to cope with the revelations and the consequences of his past actions, he also had to deal with the mounting external pressure. The press showed no mercy, publishing sensationalist headlines and speculations about his personal life. Some outlets even questioned his ability to lead the company, suggesting that his judgment was compromised. Faced with this scenario, the businessman decided to call a press conference to clarify the facts. He knew he needed to be transparent and take responsibility for his actions, even if it meant exposing his vulnerabilities. On the day of the conference, the auditorium was packed with reporters eager for answers. The businessman stepped onto the stage with a serious but determined expression. He began by acknowledging his mistakes and admitting that for a long time he had prioritized his career at the expense of his personal life. "I was so obsessed with achieving professional success that I neglected important aspects of my private life," he said, his voice trembling slightly. "And that obsession blinded me to the consequences of my actions." He then spoke about his relationship with the former employee and how, due to a series of misunderstandings and manipulations, he had been kept in the dark about the existence of his children. He spared no details, exposing the complex plot that involved his mother and close associates. As his narrative unfolded, the reporters grew increasingly astonished. Some expressed shock, while others frantically took notes on every detail. "I know I have disappointed many of you and I apologize for that," said the businessman, his gaze fixed on the cameras. "But I can assure you that I am determined to make amends and to be the best father I can be to my children." After the conference, reactions were mixed. Some praised his honesty and courage, while others criticized him for exposing his personal life so openly. However, most agreed that his candor helped humanize him in the eyes of the public. In the days that followed, the businessman received an unexpected visit to his office. It was the former employee, accompanied by the triplets. Her expression was serious, but there was a determination in her eyes. "I know you're going through a tough time, and I want you to know that I'm here to support you," she said, holding the boy's hands. The businessman was moved by the gesture. He realized that despite all the disappointments and hurts of the past, she was still willing to extend the hand of friendship. "Thank you," he replied, his voice choked. "This means a lot to me." At that moment, the triplets approached and handed a gift to the businessman, a colorful drawing depicting them together, smiling and holding hands. "This is for you," they said with disarming sincerity. The businessman held the drawing with reverence, feeling his heart warm. He knew there was still a long road ahead, but that simple gesture gave him hope that together they could overcome any obstacle. In the following days, the businessman and the former employee began to gradually grow closer, working together to rebuild family ties. Despite the challenges, both were determined to provide a healthy and loving environment for the triplets. However, not everything was resolved. The constant presence of the businessman's mother remained a source of tension. Although she tried to make amends, her past actions had caused deep harm and distrust lingered. On a sunny afternoon, while the triplets played in the park, the businessman and the former employee decided to have a frank conversation with the family matriarch. They needed to understand their motivations and set clear boundaries for the future. The conversation was tense from the start. The businessman's mother tried to justify her actions, claiming she only wanted to protect her son and his legacy. She believed the former employee was a threat and feared she would manipulate him. "I did what I thought was best at the time," she said, her voice filled with pride. "You were so focused on building your empire that I feared a distraction could ruin everything." The businessman shook his head in disbelief. "Mother, you had no right to make those decisions for me. You deprived me of knowing my own children, and that is unforgivable." The former employee also expressed her outrage. "I tried countless times to reach out, but you always found an excuse to push me away. I lost precious years with my children because of this." The businessman's mother fell silent, realizing her justifications were not being accepted. For the first time, she seemed remorseful. "I made a terrible mistake," she admitted, her eyes welling up. "And I am willing to do whatever it takes to repair the damage I caused." Those words brought unexpected relief to the businessman and the former employee. They realized that despite the hurt, there was still room for forgiveness and reconciliation. In the following days, the businessman's mother began to approach the triplets, watching them from afar as they played. Gradually, she was invited to join in their activities, and the children, with their natural innocence, welcomed her with open arms. The businessman and the former employee watched everything cautiously, but also with hope. They knew the healing process would take time, but they were willing to give the family matriarch a chance. In a symbolic gesture, the businessman's mother gifted each of the triplets a locket containing a photo of her and her son as a child. She explained that those lockets represented a promise that she would never keep them apart from the family again. The boys accepted the gifts with radiant smiles, and the businessman felt a wave of gratitude wash over him. He knew there was still much to resolve, but that moment represented an important step in the right direction. As he watched the scene, the former employee approached and intertwined her fingers with his. They exchanged a look filled with understanding and hope. Together, they were determined to build a better future for their families. A future filled with love, forgiveness, and second chances. The businessman felt relieved to finally be free from the toxic relationship with his ex-fiancée. Despite all the manipulation and attempts at defamation, he had managed to stay strong and focus on what truly mattered, reconnecting with his new family. The former employee, on the other hand, still faced criticism in the media for having hidden the triplets for so many years. However, she remained calm and refused to point fingers, choosing instead to move forward and not fuel further conflict. In an exclusive interview, she calmly explained her perspective. "I tried countless times to reach out to him, but I never received a response. Over time, I realized that I needed to move on with my life and focus on taking the best possible care of my children. I never intended to hide them. I just wanted to protect them until the situation became clearer." Her words touched the public, and the criticism began to gradually subside. The businessman, realizing how much she was suffering, decided to publicly show his support. During a press conference, he praised the woman's strength and dedication, emphasizing how much he admired her for raising the triplets alone despite so many adversities. This unexpected gesture sealed the reconciliation between the two. The former employee was deeply moved and grateful to have someone so influential by her side during this difficult time. As the weeks passed, the triplets grew closer and closer to the businessman. They were delighted with the gifts he gave them, from toys to designer clothes. However, what captivated them the most were the simple moments, like when he took them to the park or to watch a movie together. On one such occasion, while playing in the park, the boys found an abandoned box of paints. Immediately, they had the idea to make a drawing to gift to the businessman. They worked together, each contributing their own style and creativity, until the drawing was complete. The next day, they presented it to the businessman, eager to see his reaction. The drawing showed the four of them together, holding hands, with a big smiling sun shining in the background. Though simple, the image conveyed a powerful message. They were a family. The businessman was deeply moved and hugged the triplets with tears in his eyes. At that moment, all the pains of the past seemed to dissipate. He realized that despite the winding paths that had led them there, destiny had brought them together in the most beautiful way possible. From that day on, the businessman dedicated himself even more to strengthening the bonds with his new family. He took them to lunch at fancy restaurants, strolled with them through the most luxurious malls, and spoiled them with everything he could offer. However, he also learned to cherish the small moments, like reading them bedtime stories or simply talking about their day at school. These intimate moments became increasingly precious to everyone. While the businessman reconnected with his new family, his mother remained an enigmatic and distant figure. Although she had revealed that she knew about the triplets, she still held some resentment toward the former employee. In an attempt at reconciliation, the businessman invited his mother to a dinner at his home, where she could meet her grandchildren in person. The initial atmosphere was tense, with his mother casting suspicious glances at the former employee. However, as the evening progressed and the triplets happily interacted with their grandmother, the ice began to melt. The woman realized that, despite everything, her mother longed for family connection and the love of her grandchildren. After dinner, while the children played in the backyard, the former employee gathered her courage and approached the businessman's mother. She gently explained that she never intended to hurt her or drive her son away. She had simply found herself in a difficult situation and did what she thought was best at the time. The mother, though reluctant at first, eventually opened up and admitted that she had also made mistakes. She confessed that, Due to her own traumatic experiences in the past, she had developed a deep mistrust of people, which led her to push away so many important individuals in her life, including her own son. At that moment, the two women realized they had more in common than they had imagined. Both had faced challenges and judgments, but remained strong out of love for their loved ones. From that point on, their relationship began to heal. The businessman's mother became a constant presence in her grandchildren's lives, cherishing every moment to make up for lost time. The businessman, in turn, felt grateful to finally have his family reunited. He noticed how much his mother had changed, becoming more affectionate and willing to connect. Over time, the former employee also developed a maternal affection for the businessman's mother, understanding her insecurities and supporting her in moments of vulnerability. Together, they formed a unique bond, an unconventional family, but one full of love and understanding. The triplets grew up surrounded by this unconditional love, learning to value the importance of forgiveness and second chances. Years passed, and the businessman reflected on how his life had changed drastically. What once seemed like a perfect marriage had turned into an ordeal that led him to find his true happiness. He looked at his children, now teenagers, and felt a surge of pride. They were living proof that even in the face of the greatest adversities, love can prevail and bring people together in the most unexpected ways. And so, this unlikely family, forged through so many challenges and twists, moved forward, walking hand in hand, facing each new stage of life together, strengthened by the unbreakable bond that united them.